So we won't keep you from happy hour, but this is going to be a great conversation you're going to stick around for. We're going to be talking about building experiential into core brand strategy. And we've got a really interesting set of panelists. I'll let each of them kind of introduce themselves, give your name, who you work for, and the work you oversee. Why don't we start with you?
Albert Matheny. I'm the founder and CEO of Promix, which is kind of a next generation health and nutrition company.
I'm Billy Bohan Chinique. I'm the VP of Marketing and Digital Innovation for Virgin Voyages. We're an adults-only cruise line. There we go. We already got a sailor here.
My name's Dan Rabinovich. I run global brand partnerships for Barry's Bootcamp, and it's the original boutique fitness program.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsey Camell. I oversee the partnerships and location-based experiences at Hasbro with everything from Peppa Pig to Dungeons and Dragons. We have range.
Yeah, you got a lot of cool IP. And my name is Matt Miller. I'm president and co-founder of X-FCTR. We're an experiential marketing agency. We've been on the Adweek fastest growing agencies list through the last 4 years. And I think when we think about experiential, it's no longer just about pop-up shops or mobile tours or events or sponsorships activations. It's really about how brands can create lived participatory moments that shape perception, that drive loyalty, that drive community, that drive growth, and how those can come about. And I think what's interesting about this panel is we've got, for some brands like maybe fitness and cruises, in some ways the experience is the product, and for others like supplements, nutrition, and entertainment or toys, experience can be a bridge between the product and emotional connection that is building a relationship, which is obviously so important to establishing a long customer relationship. So we're not going to talk a lot about tactics today. We're going to talk more about infusing brand into an experiential into your brand strategy. So why don't we start with just sort of a foundational question of how each of you define experiential. As the moderator said at the beginning, that term's been around for a while, but within the halls of your organization, what does experiential mean, and what does that do for your business? So let's start with you, Albert.
Perfect. I think I'm maybe unique up here in terms of our brand lives fully online. We kind of avoid retail at this kind of life stage, and it's something that when we have partners like a Barry's Bootcamp or we pop up at a hotel or something like that, that's like the experiential point for us. So being digital first, build the whole brand online, being able to connect with people and just touch, see, feel, and create a community that is basically taking the people that we talk to online, but bring it in-house and bring it to an experience that represents the brand in a great way.
I would say for me, obviously, we sell cruises, which is an experience, but actually it's more about the surround. So for a lot of people, getting on a large metal vessel that sails in the middle of the ocean is scary. And so whenever we launch a new ship, we do experiences in the city where that ship and new cruises are going to launch from. So we'll invite people on for one night. They basically get a no friction dinner, entertainment, and party. So you can get on and off the ship, it doesn't go anywhere, and it kind of introduces them to the idea of being on a vessel. I would say that's kind of our core experiential essence. And then the individual experiences on the ship, we tend to go back and reinvent the wheel a lot, just to give something fresh and interesting for the people who come back and sail with us a lot.
With Barry's, it's really interesting because what we try to do is we have this tried and true workout, and for a lot of people, they hear Barry's, they think of the boot camp, the really intimidating workout that's incredibly difficult and hard. For that reason, we removed boot camp from the name so it feels more inclusive, removed a lot of the military style branding to it. And the way we look at experiential is how do we take that essence of being inclusive and tap into what we think is the cool factor in the culture? Because fitness for a lot of people is that day-to-day routine, that thing that keeps them going, the thing that keeps their mind right. And we want to bring great experiences to our clients in studio and out of studio. So that's how we think about it.
We look at it in a couple different ways. I think there's the kind of what people think of when you say experiential marketing, whether it's a retail experiential moment or it's a brand expression that our brand marketing team is headlining. When it comes to the area of business that I sit within, it is about creating immersive, branded experiences that are escape rooms and family entertainment centers and theme parks and hotels and food and beverage, or maybe it's a touring stage show or a touring immersive experience, that those really become those brand extensions of what our brands are and create an entertainment for our consumers.
So, Billy, I want to ask this to you. At what point did experiential shift from perhaps being maybe a marketing tactic or a channel to more infused into a strategic lever in your business? Did something shift internally in terms of how you look at experience across the philosophy of all your touch points?
So we're a very young brand. We've only been operating cruise ships since October of 2021. We actually tried to launch in February of 2020, but we all remember what happened back then. So what I would say is our initial intention was to take the kind of smoke and mirrors of this dream that we had on paper and just actually deliver that core value proposition. But over time, what we realized was that gets you so far, but that core loyal audience that's going to keep coming back, that's who you need to keep re-engaging. And they ultimately go from customer to evangelist by keeping them engaged and interested, right? We want those people to be out on the streets talking about a Virgin Voyage, cheering in a crowd when they hear the name, right? And proud to say, like, that's where I'm going on vacation. That's where I'm spending my hard-earned money and my very little vacation time, if you're from America, with a brand that they care about. So that's what we think about experiential being able to do for us.
Daniel, it struck me in our earlier conversation, you mentioned sort of a historical moment, sort of pre-COVID, how brands thought about experiential and what you've seen since then and how they approach experiential. Can you talk a little bit about the differences that you've seen and the draw towards experiences?
Yeah, for sure. I think all of us can agree that after COVID, you saw a lot of consumers wanting to go out and experience the world. Like, you've seen festivals, music tours just completely explode in attendance because people were bottled up for a year. I think this is the biggest social experiment of our time, right? And with that, there's obviously travel, which plays a big component to it, and doing things in fitness and thinking about it from our lens. How do we also meet our clients where they want to be and where they want to go? So whether it's doing workouts at different music festivals, or looking at how do we play into, again, culture, and our milestones play a big part of that. So what does our lifestyle mean at Barry's? We are not just a workout, but we are a community. So coming out to the community with great live performances, great partners like Promix, and bringing those moments that really show our clients how to engage with different products that out there in the real world. It's the post-COVID boom of not just going to direct response media where it's inundated with CTV and like TikTok ads that are just dynamically sourced to the right audience. You're going to people where they really are looking for the audiences that have synergy. So our audience is a certain demographic that really can spread that social buzz and social word to their friends and family.
So let's talk a little bit about aligning experiential to brand strategy and making sure that it doesn't become just a one-off, bolted-on sort of campaign extension, but as part of the core DNA of the brand. So, Billy, how do you ensure that the experiential initiatives that you're doing are aligned with your brand strategy and not just a one-off moment? What guardrails do you use to make sure that that happens?
Well, those evangelists I was talking about will tell me very quickly if they do not like something. Our audience and the customers that we have nurtured in the past few years, they feel co-ownership over the experience that we've developed. And so if there's something that doesn't sit right with them, they will let us know very publicly on Reddit, on YouTube, on our website, in any kind of survey that we give them. And so what we try to do is make sure we're using them as a proxy for what we do next. That tends to give us better results than trying to come up with something on our own. We still do that. The work that we'll show later is an idea that came from my head, but it isn't necessarily where we landed, which is what we'll talk about at the end, right? That was something that they told us that they wanted. So it's a mix of both.
So, Daniel, let's talk a little more about what you mentioned about bringing Barry's outside of the workout as more of a lifestyle approach and how experiential can help you step into different conversations with that audience. and maybe bring up the 100th studio celebration as a piece of that and talk to what thought went into that and what that really did for the brand to dimensionalize it for your audience.
Sure. We always want to celebrate milestones in our community. So, for example, if you take your 100th class, the studio staff will write a handwritten note. Your instructor will give you a shout out. Everyone will cheer you on. And we want to do that as a brand that, you know, when we're opening our 100th studio, we're also going to cheer on our community. So we opened Wall Street 2 weeks ago, the brand new flagship in the financial district. It's a mega moment for the brand. Hitting that 100 is huge after 27 years in the industry. So to celebrate, we wanted to lean into our musicality and throw an epic party.
Should we take a look at it?
Yeah, let's watch.
Can you bring up the Barry's 100th studio celebration? So much good stuff there. So many points of engagement. Can you talk a little bit about that? Bringing all that together and how that sort of dimensionalizes what Barry stands for in the mind of your consumer because of all of those moments?
Yeah, definitely. We wanted to build an experience that gave people like a taste of what it means to celebrate something together. We have amazing partners that really help us build moments throughout that experience. For example, Bureau is a great non-alcoholic beer partner by Tom Holland. Having a non-alcoholic option is really important for our community. Lalo Tequila is our official tequila brand. So having Lalo there, also Austin-based company, for us, like handling beverage, handling the music, and giving our clients that like memory. Like, what does that mean when you come together and celebrate that milestone? So, you know, great event, and also done all within 5 weeks. So like it was a sprint, and Albert knows. I called him.
That's
I'm like,
huge.
hey, dude,
That's crazy.
we
just did a pop up in 30 days, and I thought that was crazy. With that scale, that's impressive.
It was really cool because you know, I called Albert. I'm like, I want to do something with you guys that gives Promix a opportunity to get in the hands of our clients in a unique way.
Yeah.
So we took their signature protein puff bar. I don't know if you've had this thing yet. It is like the most perfect protein snack. It literally is a Rice Krispie treat, but made into a protein bar. And we had this like dipping station. So you would dip it into chocolate, have it like covered in frozen strawberries or like toasted coconut, and just had that extra snack there. So finding those little moments that just added to that full experience is really fun.
So Albert, since you were part of that program, can you talk about how that aligned with your mission for your brand and what that did for you? And you mentioned being D2C, giving you that opportunity to dimensionalize that and bring that into someone's real life. Is that a big piece of that?
It is. It's you know, the world is so digital plus in real life. And I always give props to everyone that does brick and mortar stuff. I do some, but it's tough. You know, it's really hard. And there's so much that goes into it because you're putting on an experience every single day. So when you have partners like that, it's great because we want to help amplify what they're doing online with the community that interacts with us. And Barry's has been such a great partner, and like there's just an alignment there and positive energy, and like we always just try to like be supportive, and if you can show up in a way like they always bring great energy. So I always think of like our different customer groups just kind of like little Venn diagrams, and they overlap, and you want to find consistency too, because people appreciate it when you have like a longer term partnership where it's not just kind of a one-off that doesn't really build the community that you want.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about how then deploying moments like what we just saw in terms of storytelling. And I mean, brands have always told stories, but experiential marketing allows consumers to kind of step right into the story. So Billy, can you talk a little bit about how experiential, you know, has shifted the way you think about telling stories? I mean, you've got people on your ship for 14 days. There's a lot of moments there, and maybe go into your work with the mermaids and the idea that you had as a way to help people find their own journey in an experience.
Yeah, so we have lots of different cruises from 4 nights all the way up to 14, 15 nights. And one of the things that has been on our mind for a really long time is taking the livery of the ship. We have a different mermaid on the side of each of the ships, drawn by a woman. She actually changes over time as well. One of our ships just went through a revitalization, and she grew up with the ship. And so we've wanted to tell the story of the mermaids for a really long time. It's something that has been requested by our sailors. There's lore that happens as part of the entertainment on the ship, but we never really could execute it properly. One, because I didn't have $100 million to make a movie. But two, because we didn't necessarily have the right storytelling mechanism. And then, obviously, the buzzword of the last 2 years, AI came around. And we met a gentleman named Nick from Native Foreign, who's a production company based in LA. And our idea and his creative vision just clicked. And he was able to help us execute in a way that felt really authentic to the aesthetic of the Virgin brand. When you see the film, you'll understand what I mean. But then we had an extension idea of letting people not only identify with what vertical or like personality the mermaid that fit them, we're now letting them turn themselves into mermaids, which we can show a little bit later. Yeah.
Can we bring up the mermaid, the second content about the mermaids? So that's amazing. Lots of experiences there. But let's go
not
to the
exactly the film that we talked about.
Yeah,
but that's a hype reel, so now you can all come on board.
You can see all the experiences.
You're welcome on board.
That are available. But let's go to the next video where he's talking about how to bring
You got to see the mermaids that inspired the film.
archetypes together to dimensionalize that story.
Once upon a time, there were 4 mythical creatures with tails of a fish and lifelike human features, with the beauty of a goddess and the brains of an undercover spy. This shape-shifting bunch will dare you to try. There's Scarlet, the starlet, a singing siren of sorts. She voyages the world, stopping at all the ports. Then there's Valiant. She'll empower you to try it all, tapping your curiosity at each port of call. Resilient is different, provocative at times. She'll challenge you to surrender to anything sublime. Then there's Brilliant. She prefers travel with intention. A meaningful trip is her ultimate ascension. These mermaids act as your personal shaman. Crafting the perfect itinerary is the one thing they all have in common. Good morning, ladies. Good morning, Queen. Wherever shall we voyage today?
So that's an amazing way to use AI and tell that story, but then let people step into it and participate in it. Did the story originate with the idea of let's do an AI movie and then add on, or did it just start from the beginning of experience first and AI became a storytelling tactic within that?
No, so the interesting part about it was we have this kind of list of qualities for each of the ships that the mermaid kind of embodies. And so that's actually what we used to program the personality, how the AI look and kind of aesthetic of each of the mermaids was generated. And then obviously we took the art from the side of the ship and applied that as well. What I will say is, so we made that film at the beginning of 2025 and debuted it at Cannes last year. And it probably took us like 6 months to do. We could probably do it for 1/10 of the cost and 10 times better quality now. So like the technology is just evolved so much. And so we're actually making a new set of films, one for each mermaid, kind of in the vein of Into the Spider-Verse. So each of them have their own aesthetic and vibe, again, based on those qualities. And we're working with a digital artist to create each one of those films.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Lindsey, let's turn to you. I mean, you work at Hasbro. You've got an amazing array of brands and IP to bring to life in various ways. Can you talk a little bit about what opportunities that presents and how you go about engaging your customers in an in real life moment through the work that you do in destination experiences, location-based experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, our experiences are really extensions of our brands. Another way for us to engage with our consumers in really authentic ways that build deep fandom. So I actually think I have a clip that we can play, and it doesn't have to
Can
have
we bring
sound.
up the Peppa Pig example? Shout out for Peppa.
So with Peppa, obviously she's on the screen. She's become toys. She now has her own dedicated theme parks. So we have Peppa Pig theme parks in Dallas as well as Orlando. Yeah, you can still hear me. There we go. So in building out these experiences, obviously it is very much targeted and aimed to a preschool aged child. They are right sized, they are accessible for strollers and grandparents who want to bring their grandkids with them. So as we look at those types of experiences, we also see them as being additionally experiential. So if we do get it running, which it's fine if it doesn't, I can explain it all. We had a moment where obviously we have new toys.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. There she is. We release new toys twice a year on average. So we had a moment in time where our retail partner, Amazon, wanted to create an experiential moment. We were able to then host that in the Peppa Pig theme park. The toy line was themed around a dancing Peppa toy. So we also incorporated our music division, which we have a very robust catalog of original music. If you've been sleeping on the Piggle Wiggle, I highly recommend streaming it on Spotify. So at this event, we were able to debut the Piggle Wiggle, which does have a custom dance. I will not be doing that for you today. I'm so sorry. But we also were previewing the new toy line and really bringing an additional experience to consumers who are already at this incredible theme park experiencing Peppa deeply. But it's, again, another way for us to continue telling that story and how to, we just recently, Peppa had a new baby sister. So we were able to take those kind of content moments that are happening in the TV show and bring them to life in our experiences. Her brother, George, we just learned that he has profound hearing loss. So he now has a hearing aid. So it's something else that we're able to then kind of roll into that update of how do we continue to tell that narrative and really engage with our consumers.
That's awesome. And I have to say, I have an almost 2-year-old who is a Peppa fanatic.
I thank you for your service.
And I'm curious, can you actually jump in a muddy puddle at the Peppa Pig theme park and not just see it on an episode? Because she would be mind blown.
Probably thankfully for everybody, there isn't actual mud, but there is water. So we do have some splash pads available. But we do have a Peppa Pig Play Cafe, say that 10 times fast, that's based in China. We have 2 of those, and they actually do have figured out. They put on these little adorable hip waders and they jump in a muddy puddle. So it is possible.
So we've seen a lot of just amazing, emotional, immersive, memorable content. Let's talk a little bit about business impact, measuring value. So when you go to a budget conversation and justify the effectiveness of those things. And Billy, we'll start with you. Now that if Experiential is core to brand strategy and core to the experience of getting on a ship, how do you measure the effectiveness of those programs in a way that earns credibility with your board or your budget keepers and measure what KPIs are mattering most?
So if you talk to my counterpart, who's the head of growth, he would tell you the ROAS. I just ignore those letters. Actually, what we think about is how are the community of sailors and our first mates, which are our travel partners, how are they responding to the activation in a way that goes beyond just sales? Are they posting about it? Are they talking about it? Is it something that's generating interest and buzz? So we look for our social sentiment. We're looking for the number of mentions we get on the various social platforms that we're tracking. I would say we also now are paying more attention to our visibility in AI and GEO. So are the things we're doing going to generate content about us and therefore raise our visibility score? So it's less about, am I generating direct revenue from it, but am I helping increase the profile of the business?
So Daniel, for the work that you do, what KPIs matter most to you? Is it engagement? Is it earned media for a big splashy event like that? Is it loyalty, community?
I think building off of what Billy said, our studio...
You also ignore the ROAS?
Oh, 100%.
We're going to start a support group.
Like, when you have a channel that is all about raising brand awareness and product discovery, how are you going to attribute it accurately? It's near impossible. And Albert and I were just talking about this. The good thing is we have studio managers who are really plugged into each community. So once we run a program, it's very easy to get immediate feedback about how our clients were responding to it on site. For example, we were just testing a scented towel program in New York City at Park Ave South. Well, it's a great product that we were testing and a wonderful brand. However, no one could actually smell it when applied to it. Whether you sprayed it on the towel, whether you dunked it in the water, it wasn't working. So that gave us immediate response and feedback to say, we have to tinker with this. So I do look at client satisfaction. We look at Reddit a lot. If our clients are very vocal They will talk to a studio manager, they will talk to a staff member, an instructor. So really being plugged into your team members, to me, is like the way that we measure effectiveness. If I'm getting emails saying, hey, can we get this back into the studio? I know it's working. That's the number one thing I look for.
So Albert, from your lens, more in the DTC space, are you looking at a different set of metrics? I know you talked about it's different from what you do in your digital marketing, but what matters most to you when you're bringing your product into an experience?
Yeah, I think a big chunk of the business is extremely database and all about ROAS and ACOS and everything like that. But when we do events, it's a community piece, and that kind of goes out the window because it's not about that. It's about the community thing. So that's more, how do you make people feel? You can tap into certain communities. It's not global in the event sense for us. Like if it's in New York, we have a great community there, and we nurture that community. So it's just localized, and we don't try to make it bigger than that. It's for those people. People appreciate that. In real life, events carry so much more weight than digital events, 99.9% of the time. So you can make an impact, and a lot of brands don't invest in that. And I view it like the more you grow for us online, we have to also increase the in-person, or it just feels unbalanced. Yeah. You feel like you kind of just, if you only see a brand online, you just kind of feel like you're being sold to. Right. Mostly. And if they're not actually supporting the community in a real life way and interacting with other things that customer interacts with, it doesn't feel complete.
That's interesting. I like
it's like talking the talk, right? You align with a community that resonates with who you are and what you stand for. And finding those events.
Showing up for people outside of their screen is super important because you just don't really create the same type of connection.
So one thing that didn't come up is whether or not experiential can be a revenue driver in addition to a brand building channel. And I think, Lindsey, with the work that you do, location-based experience is a ticketed experience, the merch that comes with that, or partnerships. Can you talk a little bit about Hasbro and how they view your work in a measurement capacity?
I mean, I would argue, and we can fight about it, that'd be fun, that all experiential is ultimately revenue driving, like whether it is brand building, like at the end of the day, we want consumers to make a purchase. It's a little more clear cut when it is, a ticketed experience, or it is merch driven as you exit through a gift shop. But even when we're looking at things like a retail experiential activation at a big box retailer, that big box retailer hopefully is making an incremental buy of that product in order to be able to source the event itself. So that, is also revenue. And I love a good exit through the gift shop too. So even like a pop-up at something here, like a South by Southwest, whether or not you have something that you are directly selling to consumers, it's getting that bounce back offer when you've gotten home because you gave them your email address or whatever it might be. I think at Hasbro, within my role, I am revenue generating, proudly so, within our licensing department. But it is, it's a different way of looking at things because obviously, I'm working on the partnership side, working with other brands, and how do we make sure that they're hitting the things that they need and they're also selling their product to their consumer and doing it in a really authentic way that feels like it's serving the community of fans that are both on our IP side and their brand side. And yeah, I think there's lots of different ways to measure that success, but obviously revenue is a key driver.
So let's turn the corner and look forward a little bit on where experiential marketing is going, how technology might impact that, and whether you guys think more brands are going to get into this space in the future. And Billy, I'm interested from your perspective in doing with the digital and with the AI and the rise of content marketing and things that are artificial in content versus in real life. Do you see a greater opportunity for experiential to play a role in engaging your customers in the future? Can you talk a little bit about that, or do you see it as a great symbiotic relationship where the two can leverage each other?
So before we started down the path of using AI in our creative at all, we made some really deep promises to ourselves. For one, in our advertising, we will not synthetically generate a place that I can send a human to go and capture. So for example, our ship is going to go to Alaska for the first time this summer. We're not going to put the ship artificially in Alaska until she gets there. Right? So I'm not going to try and sell you a synthetic vacation because that's not actually what I sell. Now, for things like the Mermaids film, that to me is totally inaccessible without technology like AI. And then what we're doing to extend that story is we have a pop-up on the ship right now where you can make yourself a mermaid. So it's just a little iPad. It takes a picture of you, uses Nano Banana, and then it puts you into the world of whatever mermaid you pick. And so it's a way to take that really engaging film and put it in the hands of the sailors who like it. And then I would say one step further, we're using AI in a way to help us get at more people, but not in a way that feels like we're tricking them. So for example, as a company, we don't have the resources to advertise in Spanish. There's a huge Latino community of people who want to cruise with us, but they don't feel seen by our ads. We're using AI to translate our ads into Spanish now. That's a really great way to apply the technology to address an audience that has a need state that I can't fulfill without it. And so we're talking about turning our marketing engine into something greater than it could be without the technology versus using it to maybe generate a beach somewhere that actually could be photographed by a real human. Yeah.
Interesting. So this is a forced choice question intended to generate a little controversy here, and this is for anybody in the panel. In the future, will the strongest brands be built primarily through lived experiences or through media impressions?
Well, my point of view is I want to make an experience that's for someone, but accessible to everybody. So I want you to know exactly who we are, what our brand stands for, who we're not for, but anybody is welcome, as long as you're 18, to cruise on our ship. So I would say that media exposure helps get that message out, but the lived experience of being on a voyage is actually what's going to persevere.
Yeah, I think lived experiences will absolutely outshine, because no matter how much media exposure you put out there, or digital is so good at meeting the consumer where they are, it won't matter if you have a bad product or a bad experience, because those things will trump any of the good you might be doing out there in the world with media exposure.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, I would say lived experiences just make such a deeper connection with consumers. Like, experiencing a brand in real life, I think, is always going to probably outweigh any media campaign that they see. But when we're talking broad sweeps of, a nationwide brand, I'll still say lived experiences.
Yeah. So another question around deploying experiences. You have these ideas, the idea of the mermaid or the 100th studio. Is the right model today? Are you building internal experiential teams to bring that to life and everyone's thinking through that lens, or are you using agencies? Can you talk a little bit about how you go to market in bringing those experiences to life? This is for anybody in the panel.
I'm happy to jump in. We're working on something really special coming in the summer, and you have to rely on great partners and agency support. When you have a really strong internal team that's able to put the vision in the right place, but you want to scale it in a completely new way, building pop-up experiences, you will rely on other subject matter experts that might not live within the business. So on our end, we're working on some really cool stuff. It just takes a lot of other experts and skill sets to really bring that to life.
I mean, definitely both. I would say, we have an incredible in-house team of people who are experts at experiences. But when we're talking about growing things at scale, you have to be able to utilize outside talent and bring in the right folks for the right brands, especially when we're talking about something from a Dungeons and Dragons is incredibly different than a Peppa Pig, right? Yeah, D&D in the house. So being able to tap into the right talent for each of those brands and really create something authentic.
Nice.
Yeah, we ideate internally and we use agencies to accelerate those ideas.
Got it. Makes sense.
Well said.
I think we're out of time. Are we? Let's give a big round of applause for our panel. It's amazing stuff. Thank you.